Welcome, everybody, to the launch of Cornwall Green Party's 2021 local election campaign. This election is a game changer for the Green Party in Cornwall. We are fielding 71 candidates, more than all the three previous Cornwall Council elections put together. At the last set of local elections elsewhere in the country, Greens more than doubled our number of council seats. Greens offer a different kind of politics. We stand up for what we believe in, and we work hard with local people to get things done for our local communities. From Bude to Penryn, from Saltash to St Ives, Greens are standing to represent their local communities. On our website, you will find an interactive map showing each of the candidates and where they are standing, which will be published along with our manifesto immediately after this event. Our joined up policies all support a green vision for Cornwall that turns the climate and ecological emergency into a new lease of life. Greens are not about business as usual. If we want Cornwall to make real progress towards a fairer and more sustainable future, we urgently need Greens in the rooms where decisions are made that can make this happen. We are excited about this election and expect to be a significant group in the next council. So I'd like to introduce you to some of our candidates who will speak about some of the different areas which are important to us in this coming election. First of all, I'm going to hand you over to Karen Laborde, our candidate for Three Milestone and Chasewater.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really daunted by this because I've actually never seen so many Greens in one room before. But I'm very proud to be standing today with so many of you as candidates for Cornwall Council elections in May. I know why most of you are standing. I know where I'm standing. We're all seeking election to speed up and influence Cornwall Council's action on climate and ecological emergencies. Now, we know that Green Party councillors will help to oversee a fair and timely transition to a carbon neutral Cornwall and a greener Cornwall. Now, to do this, Cornwall Council actually does need Greens in the room. And I think this is the reason why over 70 of us are actually standing for this election. This is the time for the Green Party to make a difference in Cornwall. Now, I'm looking around the room here and I see a lot of faces I recognise. And I know you're all working really hard already in your communities. I can see people from climate action groups. I can see people who volunteer in food banks. But a goodly proportion of you are actually town and parish councillors like myself. Now, what I'm talking about today is one of our chief concerns here, because a lot of our parish and town councillors have reported this, that there is a concern about a lack of transparency and democracy in the planning process in Cornwall. And there's a general feeling that Cornwall is being concreted over by developers with very little care for our green and our special places. And so we've gone onto the doorsteps and wasn't expecting this, but are hearing the same thing from people on the doorsteps, that they too are concerned about feeling locked out of the planning process. Now, this isn't difficult. I mean, we can see the reasons why. Last weekend, Carline Bay saw 6 posters put on lampposts advising residents that there were to be 500 houses built behind their beach. This is no way to alert the public. That can be so easily changed. The planning system is extremely complex, and the Landgarth development alone, if you go on the planning portal, has over 500 documents, many technical, which are nobody can understand. People are reporting to us that public consultation feels like a tick box exercise, that it's not real. And even worse than this, some are reporting that they feel that deals are being done behind closed doors. And that a few of our members are currently working at the Hospital Cross development at Helston, and they actually feel positively excluded. Nobody's answering their questions about what is going on at Helston. There's also the sense that developers are trying to wriggle out of providing affordable homes in Cornwall. And at the harbour development in Hale, where the developers are building a millionaire's playground, the affordable housing has been reduced to 17%, where it should be 30%, and the houses have been stuck way at the back, so nobody can see them. And another issue is the under-resourced neighbourhood plans. This is the opportunity for people to say what they want to happen in their communities, but these plans take on average over 6 years to produce, are under-resourced, and all the work is done by volunteers. We could do this better. So Green councillors are promising to work hard, and they want to rebalance this relationship with residents and developers and our communities in general. So how will we do this? Well, public consultation should be real, and it should be with the developers, and they should be able to show that they respect the wishes of the communities in which they're going to build. The complex and overly complex planning system could easily be changed. Technical reports written in plain English, not so many documents, to encourage people to report their concerns about developments in their areas instead of feeling locked out. And the Greens would also like to see an environmental improvement plan, a plan that would incorporate all those plans we already know exist, like the local plan, like neighbourhood plans, like the emerging nature recovery strategy. And all these plans could be combined to ensure that green space is protected, that we build in the right areas. Now, Greens can't stop Jenrick and Johnson on their mission to build 300,000 homes across the UK every year, but we can go a long way in our local area to work hard to ensure future developments don't see a huge loss of our valuable green space, that they are fair, that they are sustainable, and that the homes that are built are homes for local people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. And now I'm going to hand over to Catherine Lewis, our candidate for Helston North.
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Karen, I'm also very proud to be standing with so many hardworking, committed people. I've lived in Helston for 15 years and I love being part of this community. For many years, I worked as an early years teacher, but in recent years, I've been working on climate change. As a mum and a teacher, I want our children to have a positive future. I'm determined not to leave them to fight for this on their own. 2 years ago, I lobbied for Helston Town Council to declare a climate emergency and commit to working towards being carbon neutral by 2030. I promised to work with them if they did, and I've worked hard to honour that promise every day since then. I helped write our town's climate action plan, a practical plan full of projects to help Helston work towards carbon neutrality, to restore nature and build local resilience. Since the plan was published, I've worked hard to get key projects off the ground, projects that aim to reach and engage as many people as possible and to bring our community together to face the challenges ahead. Projects like Incredible Edible Helston, a community growing project, and Helston Repair Cafe, a wonderful intergenerational project which aims to reduce waste and build community connections. I've worked with our local schools, planting trees and wildflower meadows, and with local people, helping them to take steps to reduce their carbon footprint through our Helston Footprints project. I believe in environmental and social justice. That means building a fairer society that focuses less on economic growth and more on making sure that everybody has what they need, that the well-being of current and future generations is front and centre in our minds, and that we take care of the planet that sustains us when we go about our daily lives and make plans for the future. I'm standing because I want to see these values reflected in the work of Cornwall Council, and because I see this as a way to help my community adapt to the changes ahead. I'm standing for election because I can, and because it's important that those of us can step up now. There are many changes ahead, but I believe we can work together to make Helston a place where people and nature can thrive. I believe in the power of community. I want to work with and alongside people here in Helston. I want to hear what's important to people and work together to find solutions to problems. We're doing this right now in Helston with our new community larder project, which we're getting ready to launch any day now. We'll be working together to tackle food waste and helping to address food poverty too. I'm standing because I know that much good work has been done here in Cornwall to address the climate and ecological emergency, but there's so much more still to do. Climate change is already affecting us here in Cornwall. We need to go further and faster and do much more to reach out and engage with our communities, to take them with us, and make sure no one gets left behind. I'm standing because I know that a fair transition to carbon neutrality and regeneration of nature needs to underpin all Cornwall Council decision making now, not just cabinet level decisions. And I want to make sure that happens here in Helston and across Cornwall. The changes that we need to make going forwards can benefit all of us, can help us all lead happier, healthier lives. We've seen our communities come together through COVID, and we can do this for climate and nature too. I really believe this. Green voices in the council will help us to achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And now I'm going to hand over to Colin Harker, our candidate for Foy, Tywardreath and Parr.
Hi. As well as being a local business person, I also spend a lot of my time running a community business aimed at empowering the community to take responsibility for local assets and to take responsibility for major decisions that affect us all. And that really is the reason that I'm running for the Green Party in this election, is to really try and empower my community to face the major challenges that we're all going to be facing and to take our part in the global struggle to do exactly that. One of those major issues is that of housing. We have an affordability crisis that we're facing, in that it's already almost impossible for local families to find homes to rent, let alone buy, in the communities that they want to stay in, that they want to raise their families in. That's only getting worse. As one of the outcomes of COVID, I think, that we're already seeing is that an increasing number of people are realizing that working from home, they can do that from what looks like a paradise from elsewhere, putting pressure on already unachievable housing market for local people. Our stock of social housing is not being replaced. Instead, it's being replaced by very expensive private developments. In many cases, and Karen alluded to these, there are affordability components built in, but even that's under threat and being whittled down constantly. So, as with most crises, there are solutions already happening. There are lots of local housing associations that are building truly affordable homes for local people, instead of these large developments that are often imposed against the wishes of the communities that they are sited in. And what we need to do is we need to be able to encourage this kind of development, and we need to be able to do it at scale. Now, the other crisis in housing is one of energy, because we have a very old, poorly built and terribly insulated housing stock. So a lot of the energy being used to heat these homes is costing residents who can ill afford it a tremendous amount of money and is wasting a lot of energy in the process. So there's a great opportunity, really, to harness the energy of the community, the ingenuity of the community to meet our affordable housing needs and to meet our needs to retrofit our existing housing stock. And, at a time of unprecedented low interest rates, now is really the time to get on with doing this kind of thing. There are plenty of other pressing issues facing Cornwall, but this is one example of the ways in which the Green Party has got much better joined up plans to address real local needs. And one of the reasons I'm very proud to be a Green candidate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. Now I'm going to hand over to Steve Slade, our candidate for Newquay Central and Pentyre.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm very excited as well. It's incredible to see so many candidates standing. It's very inspiring. So I've lived in the centre of Newquay for 20 years, and I've been running businesses for 30. And one thing that is clearly apparent in Cornwall and especially in Newquay is our dependence on tourism, and the fact that that often creates low-paid, seasonal, insecure jobs. And more recently, the COVID crisis has highlighted quite how vulnerable our economy is. So we need to start thinking about how we as Greens on a council can help to press to make our economy in Cornwall more resilient and more sustainable. There's various ways that we can start. Mainly, the first one I think that's important to Greens is that as we take on the climate crisis, we can use this as a kind of stepping stone to create some very sustainable, long-term, decent jobs. One of the first things I've always thought for Cornwall is we should be at the centre of the renewable energy renaissance. We've got glorious sunshine, howling winds, crashing waves, and incredible tides. All of the energy resources we need. So with decent investment in training, we should definitely be pushing for Cornwall to be at the centre of the renewable energy renaissance that we're going to need. As Colin mentioned earlier, our housing stock is often old and cold, and there's valuable opportunity there to train up people into retrofitting our housing stock so that they can be more energy efficient, not only so that it makes it less worrying for people when they have to decide whether they're going to heat or eat, but also it means that there'll be less energy lost. On top of that, we also need to bring in, we could train people and employ people in a decent electric transport system so that we can move people around the county without having to drive so much. The other thing that is obviously of interest, particularly in Newquay, but in all of Cornwall, is the tourism industry, which is huge, but also has an impact. Post-COVID summer that is coming our way, we are expecting to be very well supplied with tourists this summer. And the question is often like how we can work with the impact that that causes. As Greens, we will be taking to Cornwall Council proposal to consider tourism tax. A tourism tax sounds, daunting and will often make tourism providers, reel backwards. But it would be something like a kind of minimal levy, probably taken by the accommodation providers, but that levy would also go to offset the impact that high levels of tourism have on Cornwall. At the moment, many effects on infrastructure and services have to be covered by the council taxpayers as opposed to the tourism providers. So perhaps tourism tax isn't quite so scary and is a more sensible way of making a sustainable tourist model. Also with tourism, I think we need to concentrate more on the kind of eco all year round tourism where we make more use of our fabulous coastline and wild spaces. By doing that, not only would we be using them as an asset to promote Cornwall as an eco-tourist destination, but we would also be protecting those areas from overdevelopment and destruction because they would be so valuable to our eco-tourist future. Okay, so the other thing, of course, is just on the level of actual Cornwall Council and councils in general, is procurement of services and procurement of expertise. Money should stay in Cornwall. Cornwall's money should be staying in Cornwall. We shouldn't be using companies from upcountry or experts from London or from wherever. So wherever possible, the Greens will be pushing to keep things local as far as procurement goes with the council. So these are the kind of ideas that we want to think about when we're rebuilding our economy. We don't want to rebuild it as was. We need to build it in a much more sustainable and resilient way. So the best way to build things back is to build back green. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Finally, now I'm going to hand over to Tamsin Whiddon, who is our candidate for Penryn.
Hello. I'm standing for Penryn because I love where I live. I really want to do the best for my community and bring the benefits of a healthy, happy, sustainable life to more people in my town, using my agency, my ability to communicate for that. I'm not afraid of change. I'm experiencing conflict resolution and I absolutely thrive in being put in a situation where I have to be able to talk to lots of people and bring lots of positive ideas about. I come from a teaching background and I'm educated previously in community development, where I worked all over the world, mainly in South America, in working in community development. And I want to bring those skills now to Penryn. I moved here to raise a family, and I've been involved in the local primary schools, local conflict resolution groups, and most recently I set up a social enterprise aimed at bringing community together and providing community facility, whilst also helping more people have access to healthier food. I'll continue to work hard for Penryn as a Cornwall Council representative and be a strong advocate for healthier, happier lives, which I believe is possible. I want to bring a new perspective to decision making by welcoming broader participation from more sectors of Penryn community. I want to connect Penryn residents and businesses to Cornwall Council in more imaginative and modern ways. And why the Green Party? I'm standing for the Green Party because I truly believe that they are the party of local democracy. They really cherish local community, environment and social justice. The Green Party's vision for Cornwall is a vision that I want to help bring about, to bring a fairer, healthier and more sustainable future. One of the ways we can do that is through better transport policies. Cornwall Green Party has a strong vision for transport policies that truly enable people to leave their cars at home. We want to see regular and more affordable bus and train services. We want to bring about a joined up ticketing system that enables you to travel across train and bus services throughout the county. We would like to introduce some demand-led services in rural areas with smaller vehicles to enable more people to travel by bus. We're advocating for a 20-mile-an-hour limit in residential areas to make it safer for cyclists and pedestrians and more pleasant to live in those communities for the people who live along the roadsides in narrow historic towns like Penryn. We'd like to make buses more modern and have room for bikes so that cyclists can take longer journeys and commute to work rather than just go on cycling for leisure, which is what current cycling policies at Cornwall Council are focusing on. We'd like to have more dedicated cycle lanes, not just for leisure again, so that people can genuinely commute to work. We can achieve net zero carbon in a way that works for all and leads to a more resilient community, happier, healthier lives, more meaningful and secure local jobs. But this involves community participation. I want to lead initiatives on Cornwall Council that build engagement and participation from more sectors of our community, that increase trust in our democratic institutions. I want to listen to my community and bring residents and businesses forward-thinking ideas so that they can thrive in a healthier, happier, more sustainable future. I want to give power and voice to more people in Penryn and across Cornwall with forward-thinking ideas. Lastly, I want to use, if elected, my role on Cornwall Council to leverage the power and the funding that Cornwall Council has to make more positive changes to community infrastructure, housing and economic policies so that we can truly bring about a positive change for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamsin. So the Green Party is the only party that has a clear, consistent vision of how we can thrive in a challenging future. A Green vote on the 6th of May is a vote for hard-working candidates who will take the tough decisions for a fairer future for all of Cornwall.